Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about the life of William Bagley as a proponent of Essentialism. William Chandler Bagley was born on March 15, 1874 in Detroit, Michigan, the son of William Chase and Ruth Booker. His family moved from Massachusetts to Detroit, where his father worked as a hospital superintendent. After graduating from a high school in Detroit, he enrolled in 1891 at the Michigan Agricultural College. In 1895, he graduated with a bachelor's degree and started to work as a teacher in a small school in Garth, Michigan. The teaching experience in Garth helped Bagley decide on his life calling. He borrowed money and enrolled in graduate school at the University of Wisconsin, where he earned his master's degree in 1898. 2 years later, in 1900, he was awarded a PhD in education and psychology from Cornell University, where he studied under Edward B. Titchener, one of the leading psychologists at the time. His dissertation was entitled A Perception of the Spoken Sentence. In 1901, Bagley worked as a principal in an elementary school in St. Louis, Missouri. Around the same time, he married Florence McLean Winter, with whom he had 4 children. In 1902, Bagley began teaching at the Montana State Normal College at Abalon, Montana, as professor of psychology and pedagogy. After a few years spent there, he moved to New York and taught at the State Normal School in Oswego. In 1909, he was appointed professor and director of the School of Education at the University of Illinois, where he built a strong education department. During his tenure there, he founded Kappa Delta Pi Honorary Society in Education. He developed and refined the basic concepts that became the foundation of the society's ideals. Bagley became professor of education at Teachers College, Columbia University in 1970 and stayed in that position until his retirement in 1939. His work at Columbia was his most productive, publishing numerous books and papers in the area of education. Bagley founded and/or edited several journals and magazines. In 1905, he founded the Intermountain Educator, which was the first educational journal in the northern Rocky Mountain region. In 1910, he co-founded and edited the Journal of Educational Psychology and edited School and Home Education from 1912 to 1914. In the period of 1920 to 1925, he was editor of the Journal of the National Education Association. He worked with the Carnegie Foundation to found the Society for the Advancement of Education, for which he edited its journal, School and Society. He died in 1946 at the age of 72 in New York City. So now, let's talk about his work. Throughout most of his career, Bagley worked to professionalize teachers' professions and to design more effective methods of teacher education. His classroom management in 1907 was a guide for young teachers to master the basic skills of effective teaching. He advocated a strict vertical model of school management, in which the principal of the school was the utmost authority in the decision-making process. While the principal oversees progress through the curriculum, teachers need to ensure that each student executes the assigned task. Bagley believed that obedience is the key in this process. The obedience of students to the teachers and of teachers to the principal. He viewed the goal of education was to create the socially efficient individual, one that would become a useful part of society.
Education should lead toward the formation of a just, more equal, and more human society, he believed.
In his 1925 book, Determinism in Education, Bagley criticized the application of intelligence testing in American schools.
he claimed that the tests were biased, written for white middle-class students. Minority students did not do well on those tests, not because of their lower intelligence, but because of cultural and ethnic differences that did not match the test's inherent biases.
In his books Education, Crime, Social Progress in 1931 and Education and Emergent Man in 1934, Bagley presented his view of the world in which teachers hold the highest level in human society. His vision of the future was idealistic, describing a world of educated individuals where crime did not exist and where all citizens enjoyed a healthy life. The key for such a society, according to Bagley, was education. In Education and Emergent Man, Bagley thought that his theory would replace two popular theories of education: mechanistic psychology, outlined in the work of psychologist Edward L. Thorndike, and extreme pragmatism, promoted philosopher William Herd Kilpatrick. Bagley was especially critical of Kilpatrick, believing that he and his followers had misinterpreted the work of John Dewey. Bagley himself was both a supporter and a critic of Jewish progressive education, believing that progressive education and pragmatism have their advantages, but that overall they have a negative effect on the educational level of society, opposing all type of extremism. Bagley held that a balanced approach to education is needed, one that takes into account all aspects of education from all schools and philosophies. By the end of his career, Bagley founded educational essentialism, a movement in the philosophy of education that strove to retain the valuable aspects of progressive education, but applied them in a traditional way. Bagley emphasized the technique of teaching in which the teachers always remain the utmost authority in the classroom, keeping discipline as an important component in education. Bagley also never stopped stressing the value of knowledge and systematic study of the subject. He believed that physical and social sciences provided the essential knowledge that all students must acquire as a part of their general culture. One of the purposes of education is to pass on the accepted values of the society to the next generation. Bagley rejected the soft pedagogical approach advocated by progressive educators, which overemphasized individual interest and freedom, and pointed to the need for discipline and tradition. Bagley held that language and mathematical skills were the core components on which education must focus. Therefore, any curriculum must be built around these two. So, we're done discussing the life of Bagley, and I hope that you learned a lot in this video.